Now we're joined by leader of the Democratic Alliance, John Steenhuisen. Good morning to you. You warm?
No, it's cold today.
It's freezing. It's freezing.
It's very cold today.
And here goes the Government of National Unity.
Yes, here it goes. And a wonderful day, I think. Peaceful transfer of power. The people have spoken. We had an election. The results have been accepted. No tanks on the streets. Nobody clinging to power, despite the fact that they've lost a majority. And I think a very mature way forward from the political parties. The voters said, we're not giving any of you a majority. You must work together. And we've entered into this relationship in that spirit, with an open hand and an open heart to serve the people of South Africa, who now need us more than ever before.
Yeah, we're inaugurating the president today. Am I speaking to a possible deputy president?
Well, I think it's far too premature to speak about those things. I mean, once the president's been inaugurated today, we'll start the discussions around the composition of the cabinet and what that would look like. For us, it's not really about positions. It's about being able to be in areas where we can serve and deliver on our manifesto. We set out a 7-point manifesto to the people of South Africa about how we would rescue South Africa. The key things that had to be done over the next 5 years to get South Africa off this high unemployment, low growth, high debt trajectory and onto one of hope, prosperity and opportunity and inclusiveness for more South Africans. And I think that's what the areas we'd like to focus on.
But surely there's some sort of expectation, even if it's not necessarily on particular positions, but there are areas that you'd like to focus on. I mean, there is of course the assertion that Helen Zille may very well have indicated in an interview that you're looking at the Department of Electricity in the presidency, or a space somewhat in the presidency.
Well, I mean, I think that we'd have to have a look at where we could best serve. I think the DA brings with it enormous experience at governing at a local and provincial level, and I think we'd like to focus on some key areas, things like infrastructure, the economy, how we lift people out of poverty, how we create jobs, and looking at the drivers for all of those instances. And we would like to fit into positions there where we can assist this Government of National Unity to achieve the goals. We look at Operation Vulindlela, which is run out of the presidency. A lot there of confluence between the parties in the GNU about common interests there, and I think that we need to now accelerate Operation Vulindlela even faster so that we can start to move. And it's important we do so because the centre is now held in this election in South Africa. The anti-constitutionalists have been kept out of the union buildings. We now must deliver to the people so that they have confidence and trust in us to hold the centre with us in elections to come.
Okay, the president, of course, as he readies himself to take this oath of office, I spoke to Reverend Kenneth Mishwe earlier of the SAGP, and one of the things that he's talked about is that the president on the other side of this inauguration knows that Phala Phala might very well be gnawing at his feet. What is the Democratic Alliance's position on that?
Well, we believe that the law must follow its course. If there's anybody involved in criminal activities or suspicious activities, they must be investigated by the relevant authorities, and there must be consequences for that. And it doesn't matter if it's me or somebody in the ANC or somebody in the IFP or any of the parties that are signatories to the GNU. Just because we're now in a GNU doesn't mean accountability comes to an end. And that's one of the reasons why we were specific. We wanted to take a role in the legislature to ensure accountability, but also the executive, so that we can also get down to the brass tacks of delivery. So there will be processes. There's a court process that's underway in the Phala Phala matter. That must reach its logical conclusion and its end point, and then we'll be in a better position as Parliament, I think, to decide how to go forward. We've already had a parliamentary inquiry. That report was voted on. It was voted down. We'll have to wait and see what the outcome of the court challenge says about that process. And if Parliament has to do what it needs to do, it must do what it needs to do.
Was Phala Phala discussed in negotiations with the ANC?
No, not at all. I mean, we started from a position of what are the values and principles that are bringing us together, entrenching and protecting the Constitution. And if anyone watched that interview on Sunday night, they can see why it was so important that the Constitutionalists stood together against those who would seek to throw out or trash the Constitution, dilute the rule of law, remove private property ownership in the country. It's absolutely essential that the centre holds now. And the voters have spoken, and that's the point I made a bit earlier to you. I'm sure that the ANC would like to have emerged from this election with their own majority. We would have liked an MPC majority, but that's not what the voters chose. They chose the cards that they've dealt us, and we must now play those as best as we can for the country. I think we have put our party T-shirts away for now, South African flag on the front, party logo on the back, It's time to rescue our country.
All right, let me ask you this then, just as a final
Sure.
bite. The president takes that podium today. What would you be thinking top of mind as you take that oath, if you were in his shoes?
Well, how do we? I think he's got to acknowledge that the Constitution has been protected, that our rights and the contract between those who are governed and those who govern is intact. And that's the best guarantee for citizens in a democracy, that they will not be subject to arbitrary action like you would have in a parliamentary sovereignty, that you will have access to courts, that the Bill of Rights in Chapter 2 in its entirety is protected and defended, and it is intact.
Right.
And I think that's what I would focus on today if I was the president.
Well,
We're writing a new chapter, and we're determined, as we sit around that table, to make it the best chapter yet for South Africa.
We really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for giving it to us.
Thank
John
you.
Steenhuisen, the leader of the Democratic Alliance.